Welcome to the Great Distraction.
What's up, people? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is death. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-hosts Joe,
Heyo.
Thomas,
Hello.
and our special guest, Trevor.
Hi, everybody.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. So before we get started here, I wanted to give a little background on our guest today. Trevor is a very long-time friend of Thomas, and I guess
He's all right.
Thomas is all right.
He's all right.
I guess these
I
guys
paid
have
my
been
share of the rent.
these guys have been, well, speaking of rent, right? These guys have been buddies for over 30 years. They said
Yeah,
that
about 30 years.
in Indiana, and you guys were playing a band together back then, and then lived together.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
were roommates
We were.
Roommates. We lived in a van together. We lived in weird hotels
down by the
together.
river.
Yeah.
Some of them were down by the river.
Nice,
We lived
dude.
in vans
least in
down
the
by the
trailer
railroad
park.
tracks.
Chris
yeah.
Farley would be proud.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, we spent about probably maybe the big mistake of maybe 8 years of touring together.
At least.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So the reason we wanted to bring, the reason Thomas suggested we bring Trevor on, and we all thought it was a good idea too after we heard a little bit of what he was into, he happened to find himself deeply interested in symbols of death. And as a result, that led to his own personal research and multicultural views on death and dying and the such. And
Sounds so
symbols
fancy.
Well, that's when we heard
That damn
about
reading.
I was just reading. That's all.
when we heard you were into that, it was like, oh man, that's going to play perfect into some of the angles that I was hoping we could bring with this death topic. So yeah, I mean, for those reasons, we thought, man, this is going to be great. Let's bring him.
I think it is an awesome topic, but a lot of people are put off by it.
And that's exactly where I wanted us to start. Us in Western culture, American views, the way we view death has always confused and perplexed me. And I mean, obviously, I grew up here, so I grew up with these same views being bestowed upon me, and it always kind of tripped me out how all of views on death and dying were so negative. And it's like this is a part of our existence. It is a part of life. Why is it sad? Why is it bad? Why is it kind of taboo to talk about? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. It feels like we try and, like so many other things, right? We try and hide from our problems or instant gratification ourselves away from things. And the way we view death, in my mind, has always kind of lended to that same mentality in looking at things as though like problems that don't exist. Like, no, it's not a problem, and it's there, and it's part of life, and it shouldn't be so on the extreme on the negative, and I've even wondered, like, why isn't it actually celebrated? And some cultures do.
Well, they do.
celebrate.
The Day of the
Heck,
Dead
yeah.
is a celebration. Of
Yeah,
death. But I think there's also too, where we grew up, where you grew up, all of us grew up.
Yeah.
We're in America. It's a very Christian view of things.
It is.
a lot. So death is a very religious view.
Yes.
As far as us as a Western culture, and I think that has a lot to do with.
That's where it came
we
from,
talked
yeah.
about this before about how much of you is you and how much of me was made.
Yeah.
And I think religion and death are definitely that part of that. And,
Definitely a nurture thing, right?
Very
Not a
nurture
nature.
thing, but growing up in the Midwest, when I was a kid, I got in some trouble, and my mom thought, "Oh, I should send you to, summer camp," and it was like Christian summer camp.
Yeah.
I was there like 3 days. I got kicked out. It was a horrible experience.
Did you ask too many questions?
I did ask a lot of questions, and this
Yeah.
one guy I remember, and this might have been the moment that changed my depiction or view of death and religion. This one moment. So I'm like 9 years old, and this guy, he's like the youth. Whatever, leader, pastor. He wasn't like a pastor or
Or
anything. He was
counselor or something?
Yeah, more like a counselor.
Yeah.
And the whole time we were there, he was just like, they were just, basically like
Drilling you.
brainwashing you,
Yeah.
with Christianity the whole time you're at this church.
Yep.
All the events all day are church, Bible thing. And this guy that was in our group, that was in charge of our group, kept talking about the glory of the greatest day when he would meet his father, his creator, and he was so
Valhalla.
happy about it. And so he talked about this all the time. He was like a couple days into this, I was like, why are you so happy? Why are you so running so fast to die? I said something like that. I'm like 9 years old, and he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Everything you say is about dying. You're so happy about dying, like you want to get there now. Like I almost want to help you die now."
Yeah.
That
But
was probably
suicide
the
is not
worst
allowed.
Many reasons.
That was probably one of the worst things you could say to a counselor at a Christian thing. So they called my mom, and she came and got me.
That
But I was like, "This is
appropriate.
stupid. You're telling all these kids you can't wait to die."
Basically.
all these little kids, you're like yelling and screaming about how this is going to be the most amazing thing. I felt like is that what they tell a little kid that they're going to make a bomber out of that's going to run into a building and blow something up? It's like the same mentality.
Kamikaze, dude.
Kamikaze thing. It's the same mentality.
Yeah, I don't understand why a lot of the times, too, they fight and fear death, even though what's waiting for them is supposed to be greater.
Yeah. It's like...
So if you really believe that, why are you going to the doctor?
Yeah. It's like, I've had that conversation with people, too, regarding...
Well, some of them don't. Some religions don't go to the doctor.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I know. Like
God's will.
Jehovah's Witness won't do like blood transfusions or others. There's a couple other things they won't do in order to save a life. You just kind of go. But it's also kind of confusing too, especially with regarding death of children, because most of the Christianity-based religions believe that children are innocent, and when they die, they immediately go to heaven. So if you look at it that way, that's kind of like you're doing them a favor. Like I know it's really fucked up to say, and that's not the angle I'm
but
trying
if
to
you
take.
start
But
really
like,
examining what they're saying with their words, it starts to get pretty stupid.
Like if these people really believe this, they should go around slaughtering all their kids because that sends all their kids to heaven.
Well, that's how I felt about this guy. I felt like he was being really negative, and I was kind of speaking up, going, "Man, you're really kind of bum. You're talking about how you're kind of bumming me out. You're like, oh, I don't want to die yet. I'm 9, dude. I'm ready to eat some freaking Snickers bars and go skateboarding."
How did you even get into a Christian camp?
I grew up in the Midwest.
They never check you.
They
They
don't
don't check you for that.
They could check you for branding.
They'll take anyone, even if you're scabby.
Right? They take
Bring
anyone
him
they
in.
can. Yeah.
Jesus loves you, scabby kid. Come on.
They're like branding that goes on for the little Christian kids. You got to check them. Hey, you been branded? You can't come in here.
They can just look at you and tell.
And I'll tell you what, that's some of the most sad displays of dealing with death ever, how Christians deal with it.
Yeah, it's just terrible, man.
Yeah, I mean, like Trev and I grew up in the Midwest in Indiana, so that we were inundated with a lot of that sort of like belief about
Bible Belt
that.
stuff. Yeah,
Bible Belt stuff.
It's really it just churns so slowly. It's like they want to withdraw it all, but it's still mostly focused on the better life that they have, which I always thought was super weird.
Yeah.
This person died, but they have a better life now. Well, what did their life mean then?
Yeah,
so
what was
they're
their
like
being alive?
negating it through, like death negates it. Your death negates your life because you're in a better place and you have a better life now.
Yeah, that's an interesting
That seems
point. I never
pretty
thought about
bizarre.
that. Yeah, it's like, so what value does your existence right now have?
Thank you.
If it's
And
all about...
And
yeah,
if
never thought of
children
that.
are born and they die, but they're okay to go, I thought everyone was born with sin.
Yeah,
And then you physically had, I don't want to get into that. That's a whole nother subject I can
absolutely.
burn on right there. I've done more research on that just so that I can battle it properly.
Oh, yeah.
But we should steer back to our death talk, shouldn't we? Don't get me riled up, boys.
No, but okay. So while you're on the tip there, I wanted to talk more about the symbols of death you were talking about. Okay, so specifically, maybe how did you get interested in that, and then specifically, what got your interest in it? Like, how did that progress?
I don't know. When I was little, I was really attracted to the idea of that there's bones inside of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For
like
sure.
It's weird.
Just everybody is the same in the core. We all have a skeletal structure, and they may vary, but we're all the same.
Yeah, they're all white bones.
And to me, that was like, well, we're not separate.
Yeah,
None
it's
of us
like-
are separate. We share this.
It's like the unifying factor.
Right. No matter what you look like on the outside,
Common foundation,
You've
dude,
you've got a skeletal structure. You're a freaking human.
And the muscles
you walk
look the same
upright.
too.
Absolutely. So that was a pretty good thing, and also too, I'd be lying if I didn't say I enjoy things that scare other people.
Yeah.
So if someone
could see
shows
that.
you
I could
something
see it.
that they consider scary,
Yeah.
I'm usually like, that's pretty cool.
It's
Like,
fascinating. I can understand.
It's embraced every Halloween.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can totally see where that would be fascinating on a psychological level, because I mean, right there, first thing I think of is like, look at the universal things that scare certain people. Like, I had this conversation with one of my friends once that I loved, and it stuck with me ever since. She said humans are something, I can't remember exact words, but something to the effect of that human beings are afraid internally, naturally, intrinsically afraid of things that have too many legs.
Yeah.
If they have more than 4 legs, we usually don't like them. So it's like, if you think about a spider has 8 legs, right? Or an octopus has, I don't know how many.
4 times as much?
Yeah,
Eight
yeah.
tentacles.
Is there math involved in
Yeah,
this?
millipedes, centipedes. I mean, think
Right.
about
Oh,
anything that has more than 4 legs. We generally don't like it. It's
That
uncomfortable.
has to be some caveman shit.
Right,
You know?
and so like you start thinking about these commonalities that scare people, death being one of them. Which obviously ties into our own existence. It ends, and we don't know what happens. There's a lot of confusion. So there's a lot of reason we'd be afraid of it. But I completely understand what you're saying behind the connections of psychology among people. The
yeah,
commonality.
it's pretty crazy, and I'm attracted to that, and just naturally attracted to that. So as I grow older, and I started to wonder, well, if this is how we treat our dead, how do these people treat their dead?
Yeah.
And I mean, across the board, it gets really, really crazy.
Yeah.
Of what some people do.
Yeah. Go into pick something.
Cannibalism,
After death?
eating your dead.
Eating your dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
In Tibet, they have a ritual. It's called a sky funeral or something like that, and they take you up on a hill and chop you up into pieces so the vultures can eat you, and you're like, basically giving your life back.
Yeah, that's not that
You
bad,
know what I
actually.
mean?
Yeah. Kind of gross for the dudes
Yeah,
got to
but
do it.
you tell someone who enjoys a pumpkin spice latte, some shit like that, and it blows their mind, and that is just too much.
Yeah,
you
the
know what I
other
mean?
thing-
Why isn't it as accepted? It's just different.
And it happened. It's actually this. Yeah, you're right. It's a different approach, but it's actually the same thing. Because when they bury us in the ground, dude, we're worm food. I mean, eventually something's going to be picking you apart. Now, they
Absolutely.
stick you in this fancy, overpriced wooden box.
Holy shit!
All that
do we
does
need
is
to get into how expensive it
man.
is to fucking die?
That's horrible.
Pardon my
That's
language.
such a robbery. Among the people.
The least amount, $7,000 in Indiana to die,
Yeah.
and that's not including your hospital bill.
It's even like $1,000 for an urn and have somebody cremated. Like there's no cheap way to die in its place.
No,
And-
that's bizarre too.
I
What's
know.
your most economical
You can't have grace
option?
in that.
That is the most economical option. Is the cremation for now? There's something called a wet cremation that's coming. Wet cremation that's coming around. And there's actually I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember. I believe it's Science Friday, and they had this woman who was the head CEO or something like that of a mortuary. I believe it was in L.A. And she was actually going around the country trying to work with local state governments to pass, because apparently what we are legally allowed to do with our dead is managed by the state government at each state level.
Okay.
The federal government doesn't care.
Interesting.
Now, based on what she was saying, she's supposed to be a subject matter expert. So anyway, apparently the government doesn't really care what we do with our dead. It's just the state government, the federal government, the state government does. So she was going around trying to get this procedure known as the wet cremation legalized in all these states, because she probably had a foothold in it either.
She probably sold the machines that did it.
Whatever.
right.
But it's essentially like some Breaking
I want the
Bad.
machines that are making them.
Well, there's no machine. I think it's like a vat, dude. It's like straight up some 55-gallon. We're gonna throw your body in this acid, and then what comes out is some pink
Seems
paste.
very Breaking Badish.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how gory it
It's
is.
gangster.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't
Maybe
know.
it is just a mafia thing.
Well, she's trying to legally pass it and get it to be done. But her one of her main proponents or arguments for it rather was that it is way more environmentally friendly than all the carbon that gets created from burning somebody. Apparently, running those furnaces, it takes a while. There's a lot of carbon exhaled into the atmosphere from it. So she had a solid what's the word? Being
Solution.
eco-friendly reasoning behind that's not the word I was looking for, but anyway,
It works.
Yeah, behind why she was promoting this, and a lot of states were passing it and allowing it. But I thought that's kind of an interesting option. And then the other one, you guys have heard of the being buried in your body in the like a type of burlap sack thing on the base of a tree, and then they plant the
heard that,
tree in
Yeah.
there. Or there's even like
That's
a
pretty
mushroom.
cool.
That is hella cool. Now, okay, so I was reading more into that, and they apparently the tree doesn't use your what the nutrients from your body like you might think, but what does use it is all the worms and the insects that live in the ground, which then produce better soil.
That's right.
And it helps I think the pH levels as well, and the nitrogen as you decompose. So basically you are feeding the tree, but the roots of the tree aren't like
You're
tapping
helping,
into you.
You're helping the food chain of the
Yes,
tree.
exactly.
But there's not
Because
going
I've
to be an
done that
arm sticking
before.
out of the tree one day. A finger bone sticking out of one
Right.
branch. Is that a branch? That's a finger bone.
That looks just like Phil. Look at that.
The
He
trunk of
trimmed
the
his
tree's
nails
got a
so
face
weird.
in it.
That's right. It's Bobby.
That'd be creepy.
That would be kind of creepy.
But essentially that's the same thing that's happening to us when we bury people in coffins. The only difference is, like, by the time that coffin rots away, it's like you're like liquefied in there
Sure.
and nasty.
It's
Yeah.
going to last longer than you are.
Oh yeah, your body, yeah.
Yeah, I've never understood the concept of even burying yourself.
That's-
Like, I understand, a lot of cultures do it. There's different reasons, whatever. But to me, like, it wastes a lot of land.
Big time.
for
I
I was
one.
just getting ready to say
Me
the
too.
reason
Yeah.
why that's not popular anymore is because we could be selling that.
That's
We could
right.
put
That could
some
be a golf
condos
course.
on there.
That's right. It's like a lifetime or multiple lifetimes land usage, right? When you start up a cemetery, you have to like basically
It's
agree
there
that
forever.
yeah, you're not going to touch that for hundreds of years, you know,
Right.
as long as it's within your family's control or somebody can
Sure.
control it. So it's like that's a crazy use of land, you know?
Yeah, there's an area that I used to hang out in that had graves back to the 1600s.
Wow.
And you could barely read any of the tombstones and things like that, but it was just tucked away in the
See,
back of
and
this neighborhood because they couldn't
I-
make
I-
it
Can't
go
touch
away.
it.
I can deeply respect that people like that approach because it gives them a physical place to go and mourn, and
Right.
that's completely acceptable and that's wonderful. However, when you have graves that are back to the 1600s, dude, nobody alive is going to remember that person. Nobody's
I
mourning
don't
there
know.
anymore.
And also too, according to everyone, once you're dead, you're either gone or your soul's someplace else or something.
you ain't here
What
anymore.
of importance is your physical form?
yeah.
It's almost selfish for people.
Well, yes, it is.
You know what I mean?
it's
that's how
Preserve me.
that's how I feel about it. It's very selfish.
It's a bit
A funeral
narcissistic.
is a total narcissistic
Yeah.
fucking party.
yeah.
It kind of is. But
Everyone
yeah.
could, woe is me, and
yeah.
oh god, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
that's-
not want to think that when I die, anybody's going to be doing that crap. I don't like that at all, man. It's
Dude,
like,
I want people to be like, kapla.
That's it. That's it.
He
that's
went
it,
out
dude.
fucking
That's
burning,
it, dude.
you know?
Yes.
Great success.
Yeah.
You did,
Or at least just be happy for me because I like for the way I hope to look at it at that come that time is like an ascension. It's like, dude, I'm off to the next level. Peace out, people. I'll
Yeah.
see you
Well,
when you get
that's
there.
how I feel about it too, and I don't feel like our comprehension of death is obviously wrong. I think it's completely.
Oh, I think
wrong.
so. Yeah, big time.
And then
It's a fear-mongering.
It's a fear mongering, and going back again to statements about how much of me is made versus what I grew up around, or especially in our generations of media and everything.
Yeah.
But to me, I feel like it's just an energy. I mean, I think when you look at the way everything is made, you can break everything down into little pieces and fragments that are so tiny and minute that we are just another tiny and minute fragment of something.
Yeah.
A much greater universe. And so for me, it's hard to like have this like selfishness about my existence because I feel like I'm more at ease with the notion that I'm a part of this universe and everything.
Yeah.
I'm one of the little pieces,
Yeah.
and all of them count. So I'm just enjoying my time. And I think a lot of people have this death thing. They get worried. I see people that know, I can't even talk about death. I'll freak out or
Dude, I can't stand that.
weird stuff like that. But I mean,
it's pretty sad.
We're
it
not
is
supposed to
pretty
talk
sad.
about people who have died.
Yeah.
Right.
I think people naturally fear transition.
Yeah.
Human
Change.
beings don't transition much.
Yeah.
You transition when you're born, you transition when you die, when you have maybe a near-death experience. For me, when you have a heavy psychedelic dose,
Yeah.
you can experience periods of transition.
Yep.
And I know some of my psychedelic use has really given me some of those transitions and sort of, I guess in a way, familiarized me with that feeling. And, I think a lot of times people white knuckle the wheel of life.
Absolutely.
And learning that experience and having those experiences allowed me to more readily release that and transition more easily. And I totally get what you're saying about energies, Thomas, because I really feel that's what we are. I mean, we've done a lot of research into the brain and how the mind works, yet we've never found where the observer is. We still can't define what it is that we are. That sense of consciousness that's observing this has not been nailed down. So I feel like that's that energy portion.
It's almost like a ghosting, because you're experiencing your life and you're doing your things. But I don't know about you guys, but sometimes during the middle of the day I can look around and I'm like, I have to almost like what Joe and I've talked about this before. But sometimes I feel like I just have to lean against something or touch something and go, man, I feel like
I'm not dreaming.
am I dreaming? I can really, I don't know. But
It's like a weird kind of deja vu for existence, right?
Just a weird space, and I almost feel like am I in an energy that is like it's just like when the wind's blowing somewhere and the molecules of things are just floating around or something. I don't know. I'm just floating through life or floating through the air, whatever. Things are just moving, but I feel like it's more of an energy source kind of thing though, and that's how I relate to it.
Yeah. I liked what you were talking about, like how we're such a small speck in the universe. One of the things that's always fascinated me that I think is another metaphorical, and actually it's not, anyway, an example of that is a jellyfish. I've always loved the concept that those things look like, those creatures look like they are a singular animal, like kind of how we perceive them as, like a fish in the water, right? I mean, it seems to move on its own. It seems to get its food, yet it has no central nervous system and no brain. It's a collection of cells that created this vast creature that in its own little universe is its own little universe with its own drive and goals and whatever to survive, right? The only thing it lacks that makes us different is that central nervous system.
So a physical being.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a complete being, but it's actually not an individual being. It has... I don't think you could even look at a fish and think, oh man, dolphins are mammals, not a bad example. Anyway, you could look at a fish and think, well, man, I'm hurting that fish, or something about interacting with that entity can leave you feeling like it is conscious to some degree of what is going on. Look at a jellyfish and how could we will still kind of look at it that way because that's how we're used to looking at living things, but there is nothing there. It's no different than looking at bacteria in a petri dish. I mean, it is just a collection of more, not bacteria, but living cells, right?
Yeah.
And that concept is fascinating because that's a perfect example of what we are within, or at least how I perceive it. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, we are that.
Absolutely.
We're made from jellyfish.
Yeah, well, stardust, right? I mean,
Sure.
Same thing. So is the jellyfish made from stardust too, right? I mean, they can only work with what is available floating around from wherever
Right.
for eons upon eons. So just like those cells come together to make a universe that has a purpose, and that purpose in that universe is the jellyfish. That's exactly what we are, little specks within this universe. And we could be a blood cell inside of a creature.
Yeah.
That's
So for many, many years, I've tried to explain this idealism that I have about my existence and how small we are in the universe. And here's how I relate it. Here's the quick story. I feel like there's so many versions of in and out. From where we are, we look in microscopes, we look out telescopes. So we're in a middle space.
Yeah.
We are in a middle space. A middle space of what? And how big is that middle space?
Supposed to be
so
infinite.
for me, it's supposed to be infinite. So for me, when I think about this, I think about if that's the case, then there's so many other things built on top of. We all could be a speck of dirt and a giant's fingernail that's so big that we would never comprehend his size, and that this moment of our entire Earth's existence is just one day when he was sitting at the counter looking at something for 2 seconds, and he's getting ready to move, and when he moves, our world will be over.
Yeah.
But that's the change. That's the difference in the size and the scale and the timelines of looking out and looking in.
any more than a flea is aware that it's on the back of a cat.
Right?
It's pretty Lovecraftian of you.
Nice.
Because they believe that when the great Cthulhu sleeps, we're the dream, and when he awakens, we disappear.
Dude, that is like like an Adventure Time episode I saw. that's crazy. So that actually comes from a real. Okay,
Yeah.
expand on that a little bit.
H.P. Lovecraft was a writer, and
He wrote a lot of nutty
The
stuff.
Call of Cthulhu, I think, is his most famous piece because everyone knows that because of Metallica, and they had a song called that. It's more of a detective story, but what it deals with is like the uncontrollable unknown. So his big deal was the last fear of man is the what did we say earlier? The last fear of man is
Death?
we were just
the unknown.
the unknown.
Oh, the unknown.
Yeah, because we've dealt with nature, and we've dealt with each other.
Yeah.
So the fear of the unknown is kind of like the last border to mess with humans on a psychological level.
Yep.
And so his writings are like that. So a lot of the creatures that are in his stories live interdimensionally with us.
Wow. Yeah, death is
And
totally...
so it's pretty frightening to think, but in their theorem, we're a dream of an elder god that lives in the sea.
Dang, dude. Okay, I'll have to check into that.
That's awesome.
That's kind of trippy. Yeah.
It's super trippy too, because people have really. It's like a cultish underground, and people have drawn it out like taffy. And there's you can go online and find all these specific creatures and the lineage and where they are, and everything started with these entities lived in the darkness before the universe was formed. And when there was the Big Bang and light, they were shoved into the darkest crevices of everywhere in the universe.
Damn, dude, the antimatter, the dark matter.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, and yet another way of believing one day this will all be over with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's like goes back to my energy thing, you know. And
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because what else could be driving you?
Yeah.
So that's what
Do you need a purpose?
That's what
to
our
be driven.
Yeah, that's what our current cultural religious beliefs assign the term spirit or soul or stuff of that nature, right? That's what I've always equated that electric spark to, or that energy that keeps us conscious and running, right?
Absolutely.
I always figured that's what they were talking about. They just didn't have another word for it, so they picked a religious connotation.
Right.
But
so then they're like, okay, when you die, that goes to this place.
Supposedly, yeah, would depend on what you
But it
believe.
makes
you an
more
answer.
sense scientifically that goes into all places.
Yes. Yeah. Osmosis,
Like
dude,
you're
spreads
like
everywhere.
dispersed.
Yes.
And maybe heavy amounts of you show up in a kid, and he's at 3 years old able to play, righteous amounts of Beethoven and things like that.
Nice.
And you're like, how in the heck is this 5-year-old so talented? He got a heavy dose.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly
I believe in
what
that.
it
I believe
means.
in that energy movement and that energy. And I think, going back to what Joe was talking about before, that's one of the things about like experimenting with like things like LSD and stuff. And I think one of the big
Hallucinogenics.
things is that you make some of these breakthroughs of like some of your unknowns will be answered to you by doing. Opening up your
Definitely.
cells like that, I think, and
Definitely.
that's one of the things about, we talked about before about different drugs that are like really nice to expand and see yourself and see and open a different view.
And experience things like that. I mean, I've done some heavy doses where I've literally like reduced myself down to those energetic levels, and I've seen other people have similar experiences to the point where it's just like, after you guys come back, you can have conversations. You're like, yes, I've been to that plane. I have existed as that singular cell of energy flowing in that. It's like a highway of energy. You can feel other energies. You realize you have like a sense of peace, that this exists, and that one day you will go back to it.
Neat.
And now there's actual, I mean, this is real shit, for people who don't know about it, or who down talk it, or just, oh, that's a hallucination. That's surely it is. But there is a lot of studying that to be had, and that is now being done in regards to psychedelic substances, psilocybin, LSD, and death, and the process of, terminally ill patients who have a lot of fear and anxiety about the fact that they're gonna die. So they're now starting to give people these drugs and counsel them through it.
Yeah.
And the way that people are coming out on the other side is just like acceptance. And, you can't fight nature and how things go. You can't fight the cycle. Here's how you accept it, and, they're able to enjoy the rest of their time they have here, rather than being racked with fear and
Right.
regret.
I think the big
Anxiety.
thing
And anxiety.
about what you talk about with psychedelics is that it allows you an opportunity to completely let go
Yeah.
of it all. Let go, just let
Kill
go,
that ego.
and fearlessly go farther than you are,
I want to go back
or
to
farther that you could reach.
I wanted to touch on something Thomas said. Thomas had kind of worded it as that you can find answers there, or it can answer your questions. That one I'm always careful of when I talk about that stuff with people, because I don't necessarily believe that there's rock solid answers
I just
to
meant,
questions.
I
But
didn't really mean it like that. I was just like,
because that's
Thinking
the
about it.
only thing that worries me is when I talk to people about that, or people who listen to this kind of stuff. If they've never tried it and they have no foothold in it, or understanding of it, like I hate giving people the idea that you take this magic pill and all of a sudden you have all the answers to your existence and all these questions of the universe. And no, it doesn't work that way. If anything, it opens doors and creates more questions, but it can lead to an acceptance and comfort in oneself and
Absolutely.
your situation in this existence.
It's research in a way.
It is research. That's what it
it's
is.
like I view it as a research in consciousness.
Yeah, I just like
absolutely
to
is.
provide. You generally like to promote to people that it don't research. Research isn't always to find an answer. A lot of times, research is the journey, right? I mean,
To experience.
yeah. So it's not. Don't ever go into things in life looking for for the end, right? That's white knuckling it through life. That's what Joe was talking about
Absolutely.
before. It's like now you're just looking for the end, dude. No. Maybe you're not meant to know the end, or maybe there is no real end, and that's why we can't find it. But anyway, nevertheless, I just didn't want to throw that out there. I'm always
Sure.
paranoid about how I word that stuff because it's some heavy stuff, man.
Yeah, I
And if
agree.
it's when,
I do not believe that there's an end.
Yeah,
and so I'm
I don't think there is
completely
either.
comfortable with anybody's ideas of how
Yeah.
they take care of one when they die.
Everything
Yeah.
is temporary, and I think that's something that we, as a society now, we have this God complex where we're so important and that we're going to live forever, whatever. We think that we're so amazing, that we're important to this
what was that
earth.
book, The God Delusion? The God Delusion. I think I can't remember. I read about half
God
of it.
complex or something.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I can't remember that one. But that's what he basically focused on. Is that's kind of it's ridiculous. We have this, and it is kind of narcissistic to create that
Absolutely.
anyway.
Totally.
Like in his own image type stuff is like, why in the hell would something like that have anything to do with us at all?
Right.
I mean, any more than you have to do with sea monkeys that you would grow, in a little petri dish. I mean, come on.
I feel like it's innate within human beings to have that question.
Oh, it's part of our
and
brain.
search for that answer.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know where we came from.
Yeah, I can't remember what the section of the brain is called, but there literally is a section of the brain. I think it's on one side, right above the ear, or something like that. That actually you can't go. It comes hand in hand with the fact that we realize. Oh God, now I can't think of the word. That we are self-aware. That's what it is. When the part that helps us define and control our self-awareness as entities also brings as a natural result the questioning of where do I come from? What is bigger than me? I mean, that all comes together. And at that particular part of the brain, if I remember correctly, I was reading about this a few years back, animals don't have it. And that's why for example, dogs, they don't really recognize that it is them when you show them a mirror. They either see their dog and they react how they react to their dog, or they don't see anything at all because they don't care about it. But nevertheless, it's because they don't have that portion of the brain that actually is the self-aware portion.
Considering that, yeah, that's one of the things that kind of bothers me the most about a lot of organized religion is, how terrible is it to play on that human need that everybody has and, install fear into somebody
Just
as
to
a means
control
of
them.
control.
Yeah.
I think that is sickening. That makes me, it's such a shitty
Super shitty
aspect
because
of
usually
humanity.
they go after you when you're young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because you're
then they just fill
malleable.
your head.
And everybody's got those questions. Everybody has that little
We
bit of
do.
fear in their life, and it's just wrong. I think fundamentally wrong to play on it.
It is. And I'm telling you what, I'll come back out here for a religious podcast, and we'll set this world on fire. I'm
into it.
serious.
We're still putting that one together.
Yeah,
Oh, my
we're
goodness,
waiting on
man.
that
Cool.
one.
I was just sitting here thinking about something as we were, this whole conversation we've been having. I kind of found it a little ironic that we started off with the intent to talk about death, but we keep circling back to existence. Like it's kind of like, again, as kind of like what I was talking about
It's
with
a
the self.
transition.
It's like you can't have one without the other, right? So
can.
you can't talk about what happens after we leave this place without talking about what's happening while we're in this place.
Sure.
And so I was just thinking that, man, that's kind of ironic that these two. I actually had plans to do an existence or existential study. I don't know how to word what the correct wording for that is. Episode where we talked about that kind of stuff. But I was like, man, this is touching a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about for that episode. So like, man,
Right.
maybe these two should have been combined. I didn't realize
I mean,
they
they are.
They are combined. Yeah, they're so closely related and so closely connected that it's just wow. I just didn't really catch that. Kind
It's
of caught
kind
me
of
off guard.
fun that way, and that's when you start getting into that kind of information, then death doesn't seem like such a scary thing, does it?
No, and that's the most important part when you're looking
should
at it
you be
differently.
afraid on your roller coaster that or accept that and this is going to end, and I'm going to step off and transition into something else?
Yeah,
Fear of the transition, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to make that transition painfully.
No.
You know what I mean? Like if
Well, the
I
fact
want my
that-
death to be quick and clean. I think most people want that for themselves, and that is a bit of the reason why that fear is there.
Yeah.
A
friend of ours,
Death and
a very
pretty
close
flowers.
friend of Thomas and ours, 2 years ago, suddenly died of cancer. He had a tumor. But his idea for his death was he was going to pack a backpack and grab a rifle and go to the nearest mountain and just go. And
Wow.
and that's the way he wanted to go out. And he was like, when I die, and the animals and the earth can have me.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody finds my stuff.
yeah,
But like he wanted to give himself back.
yeah.
He was also Asa True, so they follow like
What's that?
all the Norse mythology that Thor and Odin
Oh,
and Frey
okay,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
an actual religious. It's a polytheistic religion.
Okay.
And they call it Asa True. So he was really into that. So when he passed away, instead of having a wake, we all gathered together and drank mead out of a horn.
That's what I'm talking about. Celebration of life.
The celebration, and we called to Tyr to accept our warrior, and it was super cool.
That is
That's
hella cool.
awesome. That's what I
So
would love
there
for
was
myself.
there was really no like. I mean, it was sad, but it wasn't. No one was baying for attention or anything like that. It was really a ritual about making sure this guy goes to his next plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and that takes a group of people who are in that similar mindset, you know, who and who
Absolutely.
have thought enough about it to change the way they view on it. I would love to have something like that for myself someday too, but it's like how, you know, that would mean that all of my family or whoever's left when I die, you know,
They
would
still
have to
had
be
a regular Christian funeral for him
Okay,
because his parents did that.
Okay,
you know
yeah,
what I
for
mean?
everybody else who
that
doesn't
wasn't
understand.
his funeral.
Okay,
but
got
him and his brother actually are in the oldest group. I think it's Ravenswood out in Indiana, and they're one of the oldest. God, I wish I could remember what they. It's not clan or something like that.
what term they use for the
Tribe.
Yeah, sort of tribe or whatever,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had that being that I went to that one and not the other funeral. Just
Yeah, I don't
I
like
can't
our
deal with it
funerals. Our
anymore.
funerals are terrible, dude. They're so
terrible.
depressing and ugly and horrible and
So bad.
yeah.
You said that he passed randomly almost?
Yeah.
Or not? I mean,
He was having really bad headaches for like 3 months, and and he kept going to the doctor, and they just give him, headache medicine.
Wow.
And then when they finally wanted him to see a neurologist, he didn't wake up the next day.
oh my God.
Yeah.
So I had an experience really young. This is my maybe junior high that kind of had an impact on me and kind of changed the way that I looked at death. I had this buddy who was a really good friend of mine, and he played a lot of video games. So he was in his house playing video games, and his grandparents lived next door. And one day he's in the middle of the afternoon, and he hears this woman just shrieking, and he runs outside. There's a couple in front of his grandparents' home, and dude is on the floor, dead. He's walking with his wife, has a brain aneurysm at 40, and falls over dead. I heard that story and it hit me deep, it impacted me, and it forever changed the way I think about death and our time here and planning that we do for things like that. And that made me think of that. Your story made me think of that story.
Yeah, I've known a couple of people who've had aneurysms.
Yeah, so basically that's here's your cue. You could drop dead in like 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah, and 2 minutes.
So
from
your
now-
life is real important.
Celebrate.
Everyone's life is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it should be celebrated. And when you go, it should be celebrated.
yeah. But I think it goes back to like one of the things about death for me, having my belief of being more of an energy. I'm like, this is an amazing opportunity for me to be in whatever realm of existence this is. So I'm going to use it.
It is amazing.
It is amazing. No matter how depressing, how stupid, how weird you have to deal with or whatever, people need to really wake up and get over the fact that like this is an amazing time. You're only going to be here. You might only be here 25 years.
Yeah.
You might be here 90. You don't know.
And this is a
So-
really unique form of existence. I mean,
It's-
I know
it is.
we've only experienced this one that we can speak on, so to depending
But
on
it's
what
pretty
you
crazy and amazing
it's freaking
already.
weird, and
It's
so
very
and it's
weird.
amazing. It's just something that you should strive to extract all that
Yeah.
you can out of.
Enjoy
yeah.
it because everything is so temporary, and that's what I believe
Yeah.
about the passing and movement of energy. Is everything is temporary because everything is evolving constantly.
That's why I've always loved the old saying, and I know it has biblical ties or whatever, but it actually came from before that. Is this too shall pass? It's like
Right.
everything is temporary. It's like don't worry about whatever it is, it'll
Yeah.
pass, dude.
I think as human beings with our ego, we so readily make our problems huge.
Yeah.
We want
because we
feel
need to be important.
We need to be important. We want to feel like we're center of the universe.
Yeah.
And this problem's huge.
And that
But-
social media shit is making it worse.
Yeah. Well, when you start studying that and taking steps back, that was very spiritually nourishing for me to get a handle on things and realize dude, you're like a speck in this gigantic scheme.
You matter nothing.
This huge universe. You don't matter for shit. Like, how could you have problems so big that you can't overcome them?
Yeah, and I think too, like for me, when I was young, I lost some kind of I felt important people in my life young, and the fact that I made the realization really early on that like no matter how important this person was to me or to anyone or to the universe or whatever, at whatever level, and you can look at famous people if you want to bounce that idea to make this more amplified. David Bowie was amazing. When he died, did the world stop? Did it make an adjustment? Did it say, hey, people on here may mourned and did whatever as we do with anyone, but in the grand scheme of the energy and motion of moving everything, it was like
nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
That could be said for any person who's ever died. Any great person who's ever died.
And that's my point. That's my point. It's like that for all of us, no matter who we are, because we're all just little pieces.
Yeah.
And to the arrogancy that we have as a culture now about like, I have to have the coolest car, I have to have this, I'm that, I'm this, me. You, buddy, is a dust speck.
Yep.
In a windstorm.
And
chill the fuck out.
As negative as it may sound to put that connotation or that angle on it or that twist on it or whatever, I feel like if more people accepted that, if more of our culture accepted that fact, I think that we would actually be less afraid of death, because it kind of like it tones down the narcissistic point of view. It tones down the I'm a special snowflake. It tones down the dude.
Self-absorbed.
We all go to the same place. You're all going to die just the same. And one of the things earlier, a couple of minutes ago, when I said this is a strange form of existence, I was watching a documentary the other day. It was like, I think like a day in the life of Earth or something like that. And one of the examples that they were showing on there were these. I don't remember what they were. They look like the mosquito eaters, or the water boat things that sit on top of the water, right? Like their whole lifespan, their whole existence, the egg. One day. From the egg, it hatches down below under the water. They pop up. They jump up in massive amounts of them. So like millions of their buddies are all doing this timed at the same time. They jump up. They fly out, and there is birds, fish, everything around them that is snatching them all up. It's just pure luck by numbers. That's all it is. You pop up, you fly up, you hope to spread some eggs down there to procreate. And you will, unless you get eaten right off the bat. But 20% get eaten as just pure dumb luck.
Right.
And we are so fortunate in this time and period and culture and place and all that stuff that we don't die as easily, know. But some places
they took away all the stuff that could kill us. We lost jarts and science kits and things like that. I can't remember who the artist was, but he privately made a line of toys that were meant to thin the herd.
What?
They were never released. It seems like a lot of people work for this certain company. Right. If they work there long enough, when they get loose, they do crazy things.
Yeah.
So we get Rick and Morty because of that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
We got there's an artist, Eric Piggers, that I really enjoy, and he used to work as an animator for Disney, and now he has like sort of a monster-driven T-shirts and stickers and things like that.
I've heard
cool.
They beat the hell out of their employees.
Yeah. So this guy who was
mentally, whatever.
Yeah, insanely smart. He made a children's line of toys to thin the herd, and I thought
that was choking hazards.
I thought it was the greatest idea ever because because of our fear of death and fear of people getting hurt, we've practically padded the planet. You know what I mean? The crazy thing is as we pad the planet for people, our corporate America destroys it at the same time.
Oh yeah, they're sucking all the life out of it.
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh well, you know what? I'm going to go to heaven, so fuck you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrible.
Yeah.
That's that's a tough concept, tough pill to swallow there. Thinking about that. That's funny though, that making toys that would thin the herd.
Yeah, that's right.
That's such a great.
I mean, that's how actually I was born in 1969. So there was a considerable amount of toys that I played with when I were younger that were considered deadly in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
My brother stabbed
lawn
many
darts
people,
being one of them.
Lawn darts are cool though.
Yeah, they were awesome. I loved them.
Firecrackers, real fireworks.
Yeah, real fireworks.
M80s.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We used to have BB guns and pellet guns all the time. No
Dude,
big
it
deal
blew me
shooting
away.
each other.
I was gonna go buy one of those a few years ago for a camping trip. Right, I was just gonna get the regular old Crossman pump pellet gun or whatnot.
Well, shoot your eye out.
couldn't find one. They don't sell them anymore. Like
'Cause
in
Indiana,
Walmarts
or California, they passed the "you'll shoot your eye out" law.
That's right.
yeah. So it's like I couldn't believe
Padding.
that those were gone.
You guys
man.
need some padding.
But
You-
then
you could shoot your eye
airsoft
out.
picked up, and I was like, wait, what's the difference? One's plastic, one's metal. I mean, come on, so it won't puncture the skin as easily. You still put your eye out,
Right.
I mean, you can still like mangle or injure an animal.
In video gaming, we call it nerfing. They
Nerfing.
nerfed it. They nerfed BB guns into airsoft guns.
Got
They
it.
still hurt.
They still hurt, yeah, but
Yeah.
they won't break skin most of the time
I
unless you
don't-
get some high-powered
I
stuff.
don't think you could probably hunt effectively with them either, but
I've shot my share of birds with the damn things, and all it does is
Pigeons.
piss them off. Yeah,
Damn
I hate
pigeons.
pigeons, so I shoot them with the airsoft, and it scares them off or whatever. So, but it doesn't kill them. I mean, because they're back the next day.
yeah,
you
and
know?
even if you did, it's not like they're going to gather around and be like, "Oh man, we should not hang out. Phil got whacked yesterday."
I wish they thought like that.
Yeah, seriously.
If they could rationalize this situation, they'd stay the hell off my
God.
wires.
Yeah, we could just.
Exactly.
I'd build them a place for them to go if that's what it took.
Yeah,
Maybe you should just have a conversation with them. Then.
being self-aware makes it really hard to deal with the fact that one day you might kick it because a pigeon doesn't care.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
squirrels
Well, that's what I
don't
talked
care
about
and
before
things
about
like
the
that.
animals don't have that.
Yeah.
Have that sense.
They
you know.
seem to have some realization of something wrong because, like, I've heard stories, and I've probably when you have two dogs or whatever, and one dies, the other
They
one
mourn.
knows something's
Oh, yeah.
up, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He doesn't understand. He or she doesn't understand where that entity went, but they know something's up.
There's loss.
Yeah, so they have maybe that's just more speaking to their emotions rather than their understanding of existence. But
I've also heard that in that situation, that type of situation, it's important to let the living dog see the dog that's passed, so that they can see that empty body and see that
so they can understand better.
yeah,
Wow.
like get a sense for that has that dog is gone or.
I know they can it looks like they can smell something different because I've seen that before, and they can
Absolutely.
it
They
totally.
have dogs that smell everything.
Yeah. So a lifeless body has some sort of a weird
Yeah.
different scent. That's crazy to
and
think
to
about.
see that that their friend, for lack of a better term, in that state.
Well, it's funny. I read
stuff
something
that's
recently
about.
about people taking their animals to be put to sleep, and there was a bunch of vets have said, it's a really bad idea if you love your pet and this is a pet you've had for many, many years to take it there
Abandon it.
abandon it. Let
See
them
you later,
Let
Phil.
them put it
Terrible.
in a room because you don't want to.
So
You don't want
sad.
to be there because now the animal is panicked because they're
Yeah.
already. It's become
They
an
know
anxiety
feeling well, and
situation.
And they know something's wrong.
Yeah, so their passing is if you believe in that sort of thing,
It's
some
more
people don't,
stressful.
but it's more stressful, and that if you love something, you don't want it to die stressfully.
That'd be really hard to
Yeah.
sit through. I've
Just
never had
'cause
to
of
put
your-
down an animal. And
Well,
man.
when we put Coda down, we had a vet that came to my friend's property, and we made a celebration out of it, and we were around the dog as he passed.
Yep.
And she even said that's like one of the saddest parts of her job is owners who
Yeah.
who aren't present for that when that happens.
Yeah.
because they are
That
afraid
is
looking
super
for their
sad.
owner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Super sad. I've had
dogs
to
are
old
awesome.
yeller a dog before, and it was not pleasant.
Jeez.
Wow.
That's tough. That's rough, dude. Damn.
Yeah.
How
It
old were you
is,
when you
but-
did that?
I was probably 23.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, is this
it
something
wasn't
like
when I was a little
your
kid.
dad made you go out and do?
But,
Did you be a man
this
now,
goes
boy?
along
Or-
with what we're talking about is, he was suffering, and the vet just kept milking me for more and more money, and
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know what? I mean, like the most humane thing I can do is put you down myself. Like I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
and that felt important to me as a connection
Yeah.
to be the one that did that.
Like,
And
I'll
it-
help you out, dude. And I'll
yeah,
see you
it was
later.
really bad. It was
That's
really
sad.
bad.
That's a really important. That's another really important reason why dogs are so good for human beings. They teach you about life, they teach you about death,
Absolutely.
and their
You can
lifespans are much shorter
guarantee
than ours.
If you're getting a pet, that pet is not going to last. We've been through 3 goldfish or beta fish. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I hate to be. Some people view this as callous, but to me, death is just a transition. And so when people die or animals die, pets and things like that, I'm not sad. I'm grateful. They're back more energy back into the universe. It's going back into everything.
The whole goldfish thing, actually, too. I've always thought I don't have children, but I've always thought is a good thing to give a child because then they get to see and learn. Hey,
Absolutely.
eventually he's got to go down the toilet.
Yeah, my
and
daughter had no poor reaction. So far, she hasn't had any really negative reactions to death. So we've dealt with family members dying and friends
Okay.
dying, and of course fish.
Yeah.
The betta fish, they last pretty long time, but eventually your pet's gonna be gone, and it's sort of the samurai way for me. Like, acceptance of death makes my life more powerful.
Huh.
So that's how in the Hagakure, which is like the book of the samurai, there's a lot of, ancient women bashing in that book, because
Wow.
the Japanese were really into that. But there's a lot of parts in that where it's like, you have to, if you don't accept death, when it comes to you, you're not going to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be ready to transition.
It even feels very like an unhealthy imbalance to try and ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. And like the way we started off this conversation was, I had mentioned, or I had said that it always bothered me how we look at it here, because it feels like not healthy. Like,
it isn't
you can't
healthy.
pretend that shit doesn't exist. Like, where does this come from? We
I
can't
don't
talk
know,
about.
but I don't
Yeah,
know.
you can turn your head to it all you want,
No,
but guess
and
what?
so,
It will never go away.
It's driven people to create, whole places for you to go if you're good, and whole places for you to go when you're bad.
Yeah.
And Buddhists feel like you'll be reincarnated into a whole nother being based on how much good karma you built up during your life.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about reincarnation? I mean, I don't.
I think everybody's right about this much.
right.
Like
Yes.
a gram.
You know what I mean?
Like 1 gram of
I
being
hate to
correct.
say it, but like in the Doctor Strange film, when the leader of the group he's trying to get into shows him like the chakras and stuff like that.
You talking about the new one? The newest one? Yeah, okay, yeah.
And he gets super pissed off. Yeah, I've seen these in bookstores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, these are all smaller pictures of the bigger picture. Mind blown right there. That's how it has to be. You have to look at it like that. That what you guys were saying earlier, it's infinite. You know what I mean? And we're a piece of it.
A small
and we'll never
fraction.
not be a piece of it. So why are you so scared?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
You know?
to me, the fact that I think when I think back along those direction about the energy thing, the fact that I'm able to comprehend and make decisions during this, whatever this is I'm living in, whatever this spot in infinite reality there could be, that like. I mean, it's pretty cool, and and for me, it's. I mean, I get depressed. Everybody gets depressed and stuff, but I mean, I think that if you really stop and look at the fact that you have this amazing opportunity where every single day counts,
Sure.
every minute of every day counts. So start living like you give a shit.
Right.
Act accordingly.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. This is a short existence, and it's
And it can be real short if you're not smart.
yeah. And the other thing too is and I mean I've heard it told to me many times by my elders, and the older I get, the more I realize, damn, they were even more right than I thought. I never thought they were wrong
It's
about
like
it.
a
but
sly trick they play on you.
Yeah.
You're like,
It's called
you-
being older and
when
smarter.
you're young, you're like, oh, you're full of it,
And
and then
that's-
later
yeah.
on it goes click, and you're like,
and the older
my
I get,
God.
I often feel like that this existence is for the youth. I mean, you have much more energy and so much more positive outlook, hopefully, depending on how you're brought up. And it feels more and more like this existence was for the youth. And we kind of piddle it away when we're young because we don't think.
We
Sure.
have a lot of energy, and I my view of that is like when I look at our time span as humans on Earth. Let's just say we live to be 80 years old. You're a kid, you grow up, you're learning, whatever. You got all this energy, and you're doing a bunch of stuff, and people say, "Oh, the world's for young." Well, because they'll run around acting like idiots, but they're not in control.
No.
The people who stuck it out and figure things out.
And what's
kick back
ironic is it
relax.
takes us to make it through that and get later in life to actually realize that it was for the young. So it's like you can't know this without first going through that.
Absolutely, that's part of the process. And an artist one time made a statement that I really enjoyed. He was like, no matter how bad the day is or how rough this part of what you're doing is, it's part of the process. And if you're not here for the longevity of it, you can't appreciate the process. It's every minute.
is the
Every minute
process.
is the process.
everything's about the do.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of artists have a better connection with being, more centered in those directions because they understand that sort of a conceptual idea.
Interesting. So let me ask you guys, how do you want your death celebrated when you're gone? Let's go one at a time. Tell me, Thomas. What do you have? You thought of this? I'm just curious.
If I was narcissistic, I'd say I want a big show and blah blah. But being me, I'd be like, if anybody congregated, I would be thankful.
Yeah, Joe.
So
I got to go the Hunter Thompson route, man. Just shoot me out of a cannon,
Blast out of the
fireworks,
Go
and
the
a party.
You go the Cheech and Chong route and have your buddy smoke you.
me, dude. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No.
I changed my mind. I want you guys to eat me.
Yeah.
We'll gain your power that way.
Yes.
I'm into it. I'm down.
Dude, I want
the
Tom's
heart.
power.
I want the heart.
If you willed that, Tom, I'd be like, you told me to do
Just
it.
give me more salt.
No, celebration of life is, I think, if everybody's getting high as shit, that'd be even better.
That'd be awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Trevor?
Good music, good
I
times.
wish that I could dissolve into a glowing mist and re-enter my energy into the rest.
Yeah.
But I think I'd settle for a cremation.
Yeah.
And maybe have my ashes dumped someplace special to me.
I've always liked that approach.
Actually, I would probably also stipulate that anyone who was close to me, that I would want them to tattoo some of those ashes into their body.
Whoa, can you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Be an awful pushy dead guy.
Yeah. How
I'm just
how does that
saying.
work? They just mix it in with the ink, or like?
Yeah, that's what I do for a living.
I did not know.
So
that
if you
could
think
do
about
that.
this, ash is sterile.
Yeah, it's carbon.
So
like completely.
you have to make sure there aren't any particles in there, but you need just the fine ash. And you can just sprinkle it in ink.
That's awesome.
Wow, I did not know
it's
that.
super cool.
That is really cool,
So-
especially if you did somebody's name or a tribute to them or whatever.
Actually,
wow.
most people, more people do it for their pets than, yeah.
Dang.
So
I
that's
know-
pretty neat. That's a
Right.
whole nother subject matter too.
Joe had introduced me to the concept that glass blowers, and I think you did it for Coda, right? They blow
You put ash in glass.
yeah, into some piece,
Yeah.
glass piece, and now it's always entrapped in there and in there forever, and you can wear it as jewelry or hang,
Right.
or do whatever you're going to do with it. That's freaking cool too. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
a
I think
way
That's
better
neat
earn.
to have a piece of your friend.
Yeah.
Instead of like some of their stuff.
Yep.
I was too late last time. I really wanted to do that for myself when my friend passed because he was very close to me. But instead I just got a tattoo for him.
Nice. That is really cool. Tattooing the ashes. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, guys. On that note, we're running about out of time here. I'll just leave it with this. Remember that death is the ultimate destination. Enjoy the ride and don't fear the ending. We'll see you guys next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.